What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. I know you could hear me tonight because I left my mic on purpose. We've had a few technical difficulties when it comes to my audio getting started. So I said, screw it. If you hear my squeaky chair or my dog barking, we're just going to deal with it. But thank you for joining us again for another conversation during this spooky season. We are continuing our 31 conversations in 31 days. And I'm excited for this one because a year ago, when I had the twins on Double Feature Podcast, they mentioned my top 5 question that we do, the 5 takes at the end. They mentioned the people that they would like to see on the conversation. And a few names were mentioned. But when they got to talking about Ken and Ashley, the passion that they were talking about them with, I'd already started watching them, but I was like, yeah, I got to get them on. And then, life happens, COVID happens, and it's a year later and I'm doing this and I'm like, this is a perfect time to bring him in. What's going on, brother?
I'm super excited to be here. Ashley is so bummed she couldn't be here. She had to go to work tonight.
Shout out to you, Ash.
I'm going to talk about her movies for her, but we're very excited to be bringing you on our channel soon too. So it's really exciting for us to be here. You're talking about the twins double feature. I absolutely adore them.
I love Mika and Kara.
Yeah, they're one of the few friends we have here that we've actually met in person. Ashley and I took our girls out to Salem.
Yeah.
And Mika and Kira came up and they met us, and we got to spend a day with them. And I'm so serious when I say that you can never hope to meet 2 better people than Mika and Kira. I genuinely have nothing but the most love, admiration, and respect for those 2. They're just the closest thing to perfect I've ever seen.
They are so cool. They are so cool. Hopefully, at least Mika could hop in here. If not, Kara too. It'd be good to see. They know you're on tonight because they even did some promotion on IG for you. So they're happy to finally get you on. So it's definitely good to have you on. We're gonna talk spooky, man. We're gonna talk some movies. I know that's your jam, so it's gonna be right up your alley. Before we do, let's see who's joining us so far. We got Adrian James saying, let's talk. Good to see you. We got my man, Corey. After you're done here, I'll open up another window right now. Go to YouTube. Type in Wilkie's Movie and Music. He just started his YouTube channel. And he has his first video up. Good production. This is something Ken could identify to. Video is on point. Sound is awesome. He looks nice and put together. It's not like it's all over the place. And he already has a suggestion for his first live stream. My man is doing it. Shout out to you, Corey. Looking forward to what you're going to bring on the channel. I know you're going to be talking all kinds of movies, so I'm definitely down for the movie club. If you don't know what it is,
congrats, man.
Yeah, go find out. We got Lance Jackson, the movie fan, always watching some good movies, some Shrek and Ghost of Lord Farquhar. What's up, Jeff? Thanks for hanging out with us. What's up, Tiana?
Hey, Tiana.
We got Mom Blu-ray in the house. Good evening, my dear. Everyone's saying hi to each other. We got Michael in the house. What's up?
How you doing, Mike?
We got Eddie. We got Movie Hunter 2020. He's at work, but he will try to follow along. That's the beautiful thing about these conversations. A lot of people come back and tell me, hey, I'm doing DoorDash and I'm listening to your conversation, or I'm driving around like Tim Talks Talkies used to do FedEx, and he would drive around and listen to the conversation. So it's great. You could take it with you. There she is. So good up here. It took a year, but we got him.
Right. Ash was supposed to be here, but she got called in this morning, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll get her in, even just to do like a quick 5 takes, but she's going to be represented in some way or form, so don't worry about it. Don't forget to Ghostface that like button. I like that. I almost wore my Ghostface shirt tonight. I got to wear it. Yeah. There you go. Represent. Some praise for you
we love
guys.
you.
You are the best. We got Gunchi checking in. What's up, my friend? He's in Taiwan.
Ooh, that's awesome.
I always want to say that because I appreciate the long distance international love, man.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Oh, man. So before we get into the spooky season questions and all that, like I said before, I've been watching you guys for a while, and I gotta say, the content that you guys put out, I just love because I mean the different things you do. I'm just gonna pop it up on the screen here. You have a whole bunch of different content. I'm just looking at your playlist right here. As I was saying before, I love the shorts that Ashley does, her reviews. You guys have, you need to get more out of the theater reactions because those are fun. What else? I think Mika and Kira were talking about your franchise videos. Uh, but this one right here, the My First Horror Movie, that series is going strong. Do you have a favorite?
Favorite episode?
Or a favorite series to do out of everything that you have?
Honestly, probably Didn't See That Coming is my favorite. I love everything, and I love to do like My First Horror Movie. That's my baby. That's what started the channel.
Yeah.
In Defense Of is our newest one, so like I really have a soft
I'm
spot for
loving
that.
I'm loving that. I just watched the one that you had in defense of High Tension because
Yeah.
it's coming out. Second Sight is bringing out that 4K, so it's going to get a lot of attention from physical media collectors, maybe who haven't heard about it before or haven't seen it in a while. And I just rewatched it like a month ago, so I would love to see what it's going to look like on 4K. And
Right.
he's right; it's a divisive movie because of the ending. So I just wanted to hear somebody like talk positive about it, and that was a great episode.
Yeah. And like I said, that one's special to me. But In Defense Of, just because uh the episodes are so like, I'm sorry, Didn't See That Coming,
Yeah,
because Ashley works so hard writing these episodes,
mm,
and like it's just like I don't ever proofread Ashley's stuff. Like I trust what she does. Like if she's writing something, I'm just gonna put it on the teleprompter and we're gonna go. And
right.
sometimes like I'm watching, I'm reading the script as we're going, and I'm just so like amazed at how like in depth she goes with a lot of the things. So for
Hmm.
those of you that don't know, Didn't See That Coming is one that we do where we talk about horror movies with a twist and how those twists affected us and some of our favorite twists of all time. And it was just like that's a real fun one to do, and it's easy for me because all I got to do is talk and then edit. Like
Yeah,
Ashley does all the work of the Didn't See That Comings, and I'm proud of her, and it's really fun to be able to work with her because she's so smart. And she, like I said, she watches all the behind the scenes stuff. We watch with commentary so we can get any like fun facts about movies. The one coming out next month is actually on the autopsy of Jane Doe,
oh, I love that movie.
and she, when we were working on the episode, we found out that the lead actress in the movie, there's never a dummy in the movie.
No,
It's this woman the
no,
whole time.
yeah,
And part of her getting the job was she had to grow pubic hair. Like that was part of the thing because she's fully nude the whole time. So if they were able to see that area of her body, it would have been an unrated movie.
yeah,
They would not have been able to get an R rating. So she had to grow a lot of pubic hair in order to cover herself down there while being nude. And I thought that was just like a really interesting thing. I just imagine being in that, casting call where it's like, okay, so here's the thing, like that was something for me. So when I'm watching, like when I'm reading along to just what she's done, and it's just like amazing to me to, she takes, because every Didn't See That Coming on average is between 20 and 38 pages worth of
wow,
reading material. So
wow,
she goes really in depth about the movies, and it's like I said, they're fun because I get to hang out with my wife and just read the work that she's done and how hard she's worked on them, and I couldn't be more proud of her. So when we get to do stuff like that, it's really cool to be like, yeah, that's my partner.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
actually next week, October 20th, we've been together 18 years. We married 18 years.
Blessings,
So yeah,
blessings.
married, together since high school, and
That's awesome.
she's a hard worker. She's smart. She's a real life hero. She's a respiratory therapist. Um, she's just like amazing on so many different levels, and I'm so lucky that I get the chance to work next to her on these episodes, and I'm blessed. You know, like she's for real a superhero, and I'm so lucky to be able to say like that's my partner, that's who does this work with me and shares my life with me and has my 3 kids with me, and
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I get to work every day with my best friend. You know,
I think you like her a little bit.
she's all right. Yeah.
Who else jumped in here? Let's see. Love my horror series. It's great. Introduced me so much. Yeah. I know I've gone in there and I've like, ooh, I gotta get that person on. They seem interesting and I gotta check out more of their content for sure. We got Spicy in the house. What's up, Reed? Can't say have a great chat. Thanks for stopping by, man. Oh, this one. So my friend and I have a podcast that we started kind of like around the same time that you started the channel. But when COVID hit and we couldn't go out and see new movies every week and do reviews, we challenged each other to come up with a movie from every year starting in the 2000s that the other person hadn't seen. And Frailty came up, and that ended up being one of our favorite episodes. And then coming back to this, same thing here. That episode that you guys spoke about, that was like one of the old school early ones. And yeah, I think after we did our podcast, I came looking for just YouTube content. I wasn't thinking about starting my channel yet, but I went looking for your YouTube content just to get more out of it. And that's how I found you guys.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, we actually just did we just did a redux of it. We just totally redid our whole episode. We left the original one on there because that was our first episode and didn't see that coming. But we wanted to give that movie some more love because like the way that we, you know, as a content creator, the way that you do certain things, like you grow and you get better and you feel like you've matured in certain areas. And we wanted to go back and redo that episode because we wanted to give that movie the love and really like just the attention it deserves. Like I feel like it's such an underrated film with such a great twist. Like there's like 5 or 6 twists that all come right in a row. And
it's true.
I think it was such a great movie. And you know, I've had people be like, "Well, it's not a horror movie." I'm like, "Really? Like, how is it? As hell. Like, total horror movie, man." Yeah, I was really stoked when Ashley was like, she's the one that brought it up.
Yeah.
We were talking about our next episode to do, and she was like, I just wish we hadn't done Frailty so we could do it again. And I was like, yeah, we could redo it because that was our first episode and we've gotten so much better since then. So yeah, that was good. And then the one that's coming out in October, or I'm sorry, that was October. So that just came out. The November is, because we're planned to the end of the year. November is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And December, we're having a little fun and we're doing Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I just watched that again. That movie,
I love it. I've seen that movie probably 20 or 30 times, and I laugh every time I watch it. It's such a fantastic film.
These crazy college kids.
Yes, they're out here doing a ritual sacrifice. College kids, we got your friends. It's so funny.
I'm gonna beat him once we get back. I'm gonna finish her off. That's what he said. Yeah. I'm gonna finish her off. Happy almost anniversary.
Thank you.
Everybody in the chat, say happy birthday to Zombie Daddy. It's
happy
Eric's birthday today. Happy birthday, man. Enjoy your cake. Enjoy your evening. I know best friend Melissa is going to take care of you. Married Bliss through horror. That's a beautiful connection, bro.
Our first date was to go see Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds.
Great.
That was our first date, and I took her home that night, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. But she had a "People Under the Stairs" poster on her bedroom wall, and I was like, "Yeah, this is meant to be." Like,
she's the one.
This is the one.
I know there's a lot of physical media collectors out there, singles that just want a similar scenario where they bring somebody in and they look at their walls of steel books and horror movies and they say, "Yeah, he's the one or she's the one."
Yep.
We got Buck in the house. What's up, buddy? I missed your morning mug today because work happens, but I will catch a replay for sure. Autopsy of Jane Doe is definitely a horror movie. You think? Yeah, for sure. Tucker and Dale, very funny. Everybody wishing the Happy birthdays. Yeah. Their first date was Saw too. Him and Melissa.
One of my very good friends is in that movie. So
That's dope. That's
it's
dope.
he just Frankie G, the one that played Xavier, the big dude, is a really, really good friend of ours. And we actually did a Saw franchise ranking last week live, and he
Yeah.
popped in. He just stopped in real quick to say
Oh,
hi,
okay.
and he was a special guest on the panel that we didn't tell anybody was going to be there. And
Nice.
he's one of the best, man. I'd love to see you get him on the conversation. Like, he's just absolutely phenomenal. I think you would really like to talk. He's just the sweetest guy in the world, man.
Hey, you're jumping to the end, but if you
I
could help
know,
me
I
get him
know,
on.
I know. I'm jumping to the end already. I've already got my people. Okay, I'm ready.
Well, hey man, let's do it. Let's hop into questions. We're gonna spend the majority of time. For those of you that don't know, we're gonna spend the majority of time on question 2. That's where we're gonna kind of circle for a little bit because that's where we're gonna have the most fun. But we are gonna start off, and I think I know the answer to this first one for you, Ken, but I'll ask it anyway. Name the horror movie that made you fall in love with the genre. I think you mentioned this once or twice.
House,
Yeah, yeah,
1986.
yeah. Well, we're gonna just hop right into it and just say, hey, name some of your favorites and just continue talking about that one.
Yep. House would definitely be my number one. It's the first horror movie that I'd ever seen. It's just super special to me. It's got a little mix of everything. Like, it's a horror movie, it's a love story, it's a lost child story, it's a Vietnam War story. It has a little bit of everything together, and has many twists and turns to go along with it. Very scary, but at the same time, there's a lot of comedy to it as well. The next door neighbor is just amazing. Harold, he's so funny. Um, I mean, I could go on and on for days, probably talking about House and the impact it has on me. And my wife and I, our first short film that we did was called Home is Where the Haunt Is.
Mhm.
And there's a huge House reference, homage in the movie. There's about 5 different homages to horror films that Ashley and I both grew up loving. There's a Saw reference, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, House. I mean, there's a couple different homages in there, and House was the one that, as we were originally writing the film, I knew, like, this is the one I have to have an homage to House, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do to pay tribute to that movie.
Mhm.
It was the first real movie that made me feel scared. Like,
Yeah,
it's weird. Like, the opening where you have the aunt hanging in the
yeah,
house at the very beginning
yeah.
of the movie. I was hooked. Like, that scared me so bad because they dropped the score completely at that moment when the grocery boy is walking through the house, and then all of a sudden he goes into the room and you see the aunt, and that score swells up again real loud, and it's got that first, like, jump scare, and it scared me so bad as a kid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it really roped me in. Like, what is going on here? I
Mhm.
didn't
You wanted
understand.
more.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it was the first time I was, like, scared of a movie, but this was the first horror movie that really, really rocked me to my core. Like, um, there's a couple other movies that had really scary moments that I don't consider horror. Pee-wee's Big Adventure scared the hell out of me, man. The large Marge
Mm.
scene,
Large
that got me.
mind.
And to this day, I think the scariest, most brutal scene I've ever seen of any movie, and I don't know why I watched this at such a young age, but I don't remember. I remember I've watched it a lot since then, but as a kid, I remember it sticking with me. I think I just walked in on my mom and dad watching it, but the ending of Casino with Joe Pesci and his brother when they
Oh,
take him out to
wow.
the cornfield, that to me still to this day is one of the most brutal, scary scenes of any movie ever.
Yeah.
It just really affected me as a little kid. And then I get to House and I'm like, wow, this is scary and brutal in a good way. Like, this makes me feel anxious, but I want more. Like, I remember watching Casino as a kid and I was just like, I don't like this. This is really bothering me. Like, it feels real. Um, and House didn't. It felt fantasy. It felt like I wanted to be there. I wanted to
Yeah.
be in that house because of it was such a fantasy type movie. And you get to see, like, the twist of who. I'm not gonna give any spoilers on it because if you haven't seen it, I get it. It's 37 years old, but you should still go and watch it. Um, like, this movie is so special to me. I live in Detroit. I live in Michigan, and my wife and I took a trip to LA a couple years ago, and we went to the house from House. I
Oh,
literally cried outside of that house. Like literally, like tears were, coming out of
yeah,
my face.
yeah.
I was like 37 years. I FaceTime my grandma, and I was showing her the house, and
Oh,
it was an amazing moment. And then Ashley and I get the chance to be a part of a con, and the people from House were supposed to be there, and they ended up not being able to be there, which was such a bummer. But I was so excited for it, and it's just there's a lot of things with this movie that I probably watch this movie still to this day, probably 10 times a year.
yeah.
We have our own little like horror group here, and the very first movie we all watched as a group together was House. I had all my
That's
friends come over
cool.
and we watched it, and yeah, even my acting style in the movies I do, I really um, model myself around Roger Cobb's performance. William Kath's performance as
Yeah,
Roger Cobb, like the sarcastic but well-meaning guy. Like that's something
yeah.
I've always modeled my acting around too. So, yeah, it's there could never be another movie as important. And without that movie, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today, KB. I wouldn't.
That's awesome.
I feel that as 100% truth. Like
That's awesome.
it is
It's
the movie that made me go, this is what I love. I love this.
it's so funny because like when people say house, if you're into like physical media, you have to say no, not the Criterion Japanese
Yeah,
horror Hausu. We're talking the one from the 80s, the one when you walked into a video store and you saw the skeleton ringing the bell.
Ding
That
dong,
one.
you're dead.
Couple of things upon rewatch that just like hit me. One, William Cat. Before that movie, all I knew was Greatest American Hero.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I knew him for. And or was it Last American? No, Greatest American Hero. Believe it or
And
not.
then Carrie, he was the
Yeah,
boyfriend in Carrie.
that's right. But I don't even think when House came out that I had seen Carrie yet because I
Right.
saw that late. But then George Wentz, that was big because he was on Cheers, and Cheers was it. That was a number one show, and here he is, spending the off season doing this movie. And I think he was like the attraction, but once the movie started, he was like I wouldn't even just say the comic relief, but he was the one that was kind of like the straight man in it, but still bringing the comedic element. And there was such a mix of different things, like you were alluding to before. The comedy was there. You had a bit of snarkiness to it. The hot neighbor, like you were saying, and then you still had a horror factor to it as well. So for a lot of people, that was their like first foray into like a horror movie, as like a pre-teenager or whatever it is, because you could
Yeah.
go, I don't was it even rated R? I don't even remember.
Yeah. Yep. It is our.
It was, but
Yep.
video store days didn't matter.
Well, because this was at the point. I think if that would have been released 5 years later, it would have been PG-13. This was
Oh
at the
yeah,
point when
yeah,
PG-13 wasn't a ranking yet, and it was a
right.
little too heavy to get the PG, so they did give it the R rating. But man, I don't care how many times I watch this movie. The part where he's taking his trash out and he meets Harold for the first time, and he's like, "I'm glad to have a new neighbor, man. The lady that lived before you is a real bitch, man." Like he's like talking shit about her. He's like, biggest bitch under the sun. I wouldn't be surprised if someone just got fed up and offed her. And he's like, yeah, that was my aunt. He's like, heart of gold, though. Real heart of gold, real sweet lady. That part is so funny, man.
And it's timing. It's all about
Exactly.
timing,
Well,
comedic
and
timing in any
something
type of genre movie. It's all
well,
about
something I've talked about a lot is you have these guys that go flawlessly from comedy to horror. Like even nowadays with Jordan Peele,
yeah.
Zach Krieger, who just did Barbarian. He
Mhm.
was part of the Whitest Kids You Know comedy troupe. I feel like comedians can go to horror quite flawlessly because both of them, both of them are all about timing. If you don't have the right timing with your comedy, people aren't going to laugh. If you don't
Yeah.
have the right timing with your horror, people won't be scared.
Mhm.
So, like someone like Jordan Peele, who understands very, very deep the effect of comedy and what comedy can do, he knows that the same thing goes with horror. The
Yeah.
timing has to be perfect. So that's why when I hear that a comedian is starting to do horror, I get excited, like
Yeah.
genuinely. So I'm like, this is probably going to be, at least from a timing standpoint, really, really spot on. They know how to make it work.
You see it in so many different things. Like they say, like in theater, the two mask is comedy and drama, or like the two between them. But you've seen so many examples of comedians who went and did drama and they were good. Things like a Carrie, or in this case, I'm thinking of like a Robin Williams that could go from his comedic stand-ups and making comedy movies to something like 1 Hour Photo. And
that movie was something else, man.
Yeah, you don't even have to go into it. There's definitely a creep factor in that movie, but I think there's that balance or that draw between the two different elements. You have the comedy and you have the horror. So yeah, for sure. What's another movie you picked that we could discuss?
Well, let's talk about Ashley's favorite.
Okay.
Which is The People Under the Stairs. That's Ashley's favorite horror movie of all time.
This has come up before in the conversations. It's funny. There's a couple movies when I was kind of assembling the different people, and I said, "Oh, so what do you want to discuss?" Hereditary kept coming up. Train to Busan kept coming up, and People Under the Stairs kept coming up. By the time it got to People Under the Stairs, I was like, you know what? If we have more than one person talk about it, it's all good, because certain movies demand that attention. So yeah. Talk about People Under the Stairs. Quick synopsis, and then what did Ash think?
Well, like I said, it's her favorite movie of all time. So that's one of the ones that. Hold on 1 second. We gotta.
Hello.
Can you say hi? Say hi, KB.
Hi, KB.
Oh, you are adorable. Hello. What's your name?
Thank you.
What's your name?
Kennelly.
Kennelly. What you got there? What you eating?
What are you eating?
Grandma Wendy chips.
These are Grandma Wendy chips. My mom passed away, and these were my mom's favorite chips. So all the kids eat them, and they call them Grandma Wendy chips.
I like those chips. They're yummy.
Can you go back downstairs for Daddy so Daddy can finish his interview?
No.
Thank you, sweetie.
No.
What's up, Del?
That was a movie that I feel was super ahead of its time when it comes to the social commentary of the structure of the wealthy versus the poor, and what the wealthy is willing to do to get rid of the poor and segregate those areas. And Wes Craven was one, just like Carpenter, just like Romero. He was going to tell his story, and he didn't care how he was, what he got looked at or how he got looked at for telling his story. And look, I had never even met anybody else that liked this movie growing up.
Really?
We live in growing up especially, we lived in, both Ash and I lived in two separate towns, but we lived in very, very non-horror centric towns. And I had never even met anybody that had heard of The People Under the Stairs, let alone liked it.
I'm first.
All right, go with Bubba and he'll get you a drink, okay? So that was something for me that was super special because she loved it. Like that was something that. And then we ended up hanging out a lot more and getting deep into what this movie meant to both of us. And it truly is just like a terrifying movie, because it's not supernatural. It's not like, this is a could really happen type of movie. And I always think those are the scariest. Brother and sister, husband and wife, whatever you want to look at them as, could just go crazy, and these type of things can happen. And Everett McGill is just, everything he does is nightmare fuel. The guy is just a terrifying individual, which is funny because in real life he's like the kindest spoken, sweetest person in the world. But then I think of him in that bondage suit with a shotgun running around the house.
Let's check it on the chat.
Right.
We missed a few comments about House. We could backtrack for a second here. Dell just experienced House for the first time a few weeks ago. I still don't know what I saw. Watch it again. It's fun. What's up, J Rig? Love the House shout out coming in here. Yes. To me, William Cat will always be the greatest American hero. Yes. Yeah, Movie Hunter, the one with the greatest American hero. Huck says, I was just thinking about that. As soon as you say William Cat, I know which one you're talking about. Yep. wasn't House 2 more comedy than horror? Yeah.
Not a fan.
Yeah. Like even when the box set came out, I was like, I only need the first one, really. Best friend Melissa, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're enjoying Eric enjoying his birthday. I actually saw The American House, but only once in '80s. Don't really remember anything about it. So before he was talking about Houseu, the Japanese horror one.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Cut him some cake. Enjoy your birthday, my friend. What's up, Holland? Who else is joining us in here? He says great cake. Stop flirting in my chat. Jordan Peele does a great job blending the comedic with the horror. The two work very well together. Well, when done. Yes. Yeah. 1 Hour Photo, Insomnia, another great movie. The remake and the original, great double feature. I know 20th and 21st Movies just did a review where he watched them back to back, but I know in reference here you're talking about the remake. I agree. I don't think before the Scream Factory release, a lot of physical media collectors really knew about this movie, and still a lot of people would put it like in the middle of their Wes Craven movies. But there's so many levels to it.
Jordan Peele has been talking for a couple years about producing a remake.
Yeah.
So to me, that's going to live and die on who you cast as Mommy and Daddy and Fool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There it is. You know, like, again, I'm not one of those people that is like stuck on the originals. I think there's a lot of very good remakes. I think that even a bad remake can introduce people that have never seen the original to the original, so it can still have its, you know, the positives. But you got to get the right cast for this one. This is a movie that is very much built around, it's a character driven movie. So you have to be, Brandon, Fool's fantastic. Even Ving Rhames, you know, like his little role in this movie is super important. You got to be able to cast the right people to make this movie successful.
Yeah. And it's funny, I remember Brandon when he was in the Pepsi commercial with Michael Jackson when he was younger. Let me do a couple more check-ins here. What's up, Sal? Thank you, brother. Little pit action going on. Let's see. What's up, Mr. Moore? Good evening. We got second cousin Dave in the house. Leaving for date night. You have fun, my friend. Smash that like button. Saying hey. Yes. Fool is the little kid in People Under the Stairs.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
That they call him Fool in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I watch it, I find out something different. It's, I mean, surface level, creepy, underlying social commentary, socioeconomic commentary, but there's so many things that add to the creep factor in this without getting into it. Oh yeah, good reference here. Also great in Silver Bullet. Yeah.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Because in Silver Bullet, he has that beautiful juxtaposition of the evil werewolf and the beautiful priest. You know, that juxtaposition like is perfect. And Everett McGill pulls it off so well, like so well done. And he's another one of my acting idols, you know, because he can play this demented, scary person so well, where you meet him in real life, and he, like I said, he's very big guy.
Yeah, he has to be like 6'6", right?
Yeah, and he's soft spoken, very kind, will shake your hand, make eye contact. He's just he's like I said, he's an idol. Like he really is. He's a fantastic person.
Nice. Next movie.
Let's go with Ashley's other pick. Her first horror movie, Pet Sematary.
Ah, yes. Where is it? I'm not taking it out. I tried to take a movie off the shelf the other night and all the lights fell, so I'll just leave it there. But yes, let's talk Pet Sematary. We are talking the original, not the remake. The one with Church and Gage and yes. Quick synopsis for those that don't know.
A family moves to the town of Ludlow, and a tragedy strikes, and they bury their cat in a bad part of the cemetery that belonged to the Micmac Indians, and it brings people back from the dead, or animals back from the dead, where later on in the movie it comes back and bites them on the butt when they bury a person there. So
oh man, this is one I remember all through my teenage years, because it's like I remember taking this movie to college with me, because that's how much I watched it over and over. The cat was cute. Not a big cat person until that movie. Next thing you know, we illegally have a cat in our dorm from church, the cat. But I was, yeah, I'm glad Mika said this. One of the few films that still terrifies me, because I was talking with her about this, and I said, when I did the rewatch, I forgot there were some really spooky parts. And like my daughter said before we started streaming, that triggered me, because it brought it back to the parts of the movie when I was younger that I didn't particularly like. And I kind of blocked them out or forgot about them, because when they came up again, I was like, oh, I remember this now.
yeah.
And, you know, without getting into it or saying what they are, there are some really creepy parts of this movie. I mean, besides everything else, like what Ken mentioned and what takes place in the movie, you have tragedy, you have creepy things with the cemetery. You got Herman Munster in there. Hello. You got Fred Gwynn in there. And yeah, those scenes, those, I'll just say, those flashback scenes, they really got to me.
Are you talking about Fred Gwynn's flashback scenes?
No. The wife's.
Okay.
The wife's.
Okay. Never get out of bed again.
Oh, you were bored, but you like the remake better. Okay, I think you might be in the minority with that one. That's cool.
I really like the
Two.
remake, actually. The remake is a lot more by the book.
Yes.
Mary Lambert's version of Pet Sematary is, in my opinion, the most superior product. I love Pet Sematary too. I didn't see who it was that just said that, but I think that Pet Sematary 2 is a very underrated film with a lot of very scary moments.
Really?
Oh man, and the acting is so good in it, but there's just something about Pet Sematary, the original, that, and it's different watches. Like watching Pet Sematary 1989 as a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid hanging out at my house versus watching it as a 37-year-old father, I get two completely different experiences with this film.
Different perspective now.
Mm-hmm. And Ashley and I, we've been working on it for a couple of years, and we actually are in the scripting stage now of our fan film, Ludlow. It takes place 27 years after the events of Pet Sematary, little Stephen King reference there. And it goes deep into the lore of the Wendigo and what the Wendigo is and the deal that the kids in the town of Ludlow have with the Wendigo to keep it happy. So, yeah, it's definitely something Ashley and I have been working on for a long time. Like I said, we're actually in the scripting stage now. We've done our storyboards, we've done all that. So that's the next project we're working on. Home is Where the Haunt is available now on our YouTube channel. And the next one we'll be doing is Ludlow. So we're very, very excited for that.
Look forward to that.
That's how important this movie is to Ashley. We wanted to do that. What's up, Jerry?
Jersey in the house. What's up, Jerry? Just read Stephen King's Pet Sematary, last one. Excellent book. Yeah, I got into it. Probably, I don't remember if it was before or after, but the movie definitely made me want to read the book. And I had read a couple of King book by then for sure. But yeah, it's a great movie, and I'm glad I picked up the 4K and I did the rewatch. But some of those sounds moving around the room definitely added to the creep factor for sure.
Another important thing about that movie to me, and this is me kind of being like, yeah, about myself right now, but one of the scariest scenes of any movie to me, we talked earlier about scenes from non-horror movies that really stuck with me, but from horror movies that really stuck with me, I think this is just one of the greatest scenes of all time. at the end when Lewis is carrying Rachel out of the house and Victor's like, don't do it, Lewis. You know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And he's like, she just died. It'll be different this time. And he walks through Victor and Victor's just like, no, like, and then he, you know, he fades away. That was always like one of the scariest scenes to me as a kid. And I don't know, maybe because as a kid, I didn't understand how he was walking through him. And then you fast forward, you know, 30 years later, and I have Victor himself, Brad Greenquist, come on My First Horror Movie and talk about his first horror movie with me. And, you know, getting to know him and become friends with him. And again, like this person that really changed my life with this movie. And he opened my eyes. There was a scene that they filmed, but they never, it's still a deleted scene in a vault somewhere where it showed Victor like almost angel like flying through the sky.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he talked about it on our episode and like flying over the pet cemetery on his way to go try to help Lewis, you know, try because he really was like almost like a guardian angel throughout the whole movie. You know, after he dies, he really tries hard to help Lewis understand that sometimes dead is better.
Yeah.
And I really wish we could have gotten that scene of him, you know, flying through the skies on his way to Lewis. And, you know, like that's another thing that I think is super. That's one thing that held me back on the remake. They didn't have enough Victor. Victor was just a small character in that movie. A lot of people were like, oh, they casted him as a black guy. Who fucking cares, man? I'm like, who cares? I wish we would have had more of him, you know, because he was such a huge part of the 1989 film. I just wish we could have gotten more of seeing him on the screen. Like he was always, obviously as a little kid, you see a guy with half his head missing. It was terrifying, you know? I wish we could have gotten more Victor in the 2019 Pet Sematary because I thought the performances in that movie were great. You know, I thought it was scary. I like the curveball they threw at you in the movie, but I don't know. I wish we could have had. That's my biggest complaint about the remake is there wasn't enough Victor Pascal.
Yeah. Let's see. Everybody's just having chats going on.
That's when people are talking to each other. That's what the community is all about, man.
I love it. That's why. I mean, I could do all of these. I started them basically doing it like pre-recorded, but there's something about having that chat and having people interact and
super special.
Just getting that additional input. I love it. I love it. Next one. Let's go.
Well, we got two left. I've chosen the other three, man. I'll let you choose which one you want to do here. We got 2 part 3s here. So
I know. I noticed that. Well, since everybody's hot and heavy on The Exorcist, let's go with what I think should have been the logical sequel to that movie, because we don't talk about Exorcist 2 in this house. It doesn't exist.
People that know me, Mika and Kira, if you're still here, they'll tell you The Exorcist 2 is the worst movie I've ever seen. Ever. I've never seen a movie worse than that. And funny enough, I didn't watch The Exorcist 3 for years because I hated 2 so much. And then I watched The Exorcist 3, and then I hated part 2 even more.
Same.
Because of how good part 3 was. Like, I missed out on this for years because of you. You know, like, I hate you more now.
So yes, we're talking Exorcist 3 here.
What a great movie, man. Like this takes everything great about The Exorcist and turns it up to 10. And again, I'm one of the few that I think The Exorcist is probably the scariest movie ever made. I think The Exorcist 3 is the best movie in this franchise. I mean, it's a supernatural slasher.
Yeah.
And Brad Dourif's character in this movie, my Lord.
So good.
Oh, the Gemini Killer is so good. It's just, and there's moments in this movie that genuinely make me laugh out loud. Like when he's talking to the preacher and he's like, "Do you smell me, Father? I haven't had a bath in 3 days. My wife has a fish in the bathtub." And like that whole sequence right there is so funny. Yeah, I love this movie. And I'm also one of the few that I liked The Exorcist Believer. I don't want to get into spoilers or any discussion about it, but I don't see it. Did it blow me away? No, I ranked it 3.5 out of 5. but I don't get the hate. I get some divisiveness when it comes to story intertwines with the original story, but
I also think there's a Blumhouse factor. There's some people that just want to hate anything that they bring forward.
yeah, it's one of those things where everybody's got to hate something now. I go into movies. Yes, it does. It absolutely does.
We have somebody who hasn't seen it. We'll try to keep it clean for you, Del.
Oh, Del, you got to watch it, please.
It's so good.
It's streaming now either on Amazon Prime or Shudder.
Yeah, I would. If you picked up Exorcist 4K or you have access to it, I think it's on Max or whatever. Rewatch The Exorcist, because once again, that's another movie that he's 1 year younger than me, so we share that. I saw that movie way too young before I was supposed to, like single digits, and I think I watched it in college. Watch The Exorcist as an adult, or as we say, as a grown-ass man, and then watch Exorcist 3, because it's logical, but it's a story that stands enough on its own that you don't even have to watch The Exorcist, but just for bringing back references if you haven't seen it in a while. But it plays so well back to back.
And especially where it really reminds me of The Exorcist. And again, I think that these are two completely separate movies. Like, they're even like tone, everything is different. This is a lot more of like a police procedural film until you get to that third act. Just like the original Exorcist. Like, it's a slow burn, but when you get to the third act and it goes down, it goes down.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in this movie. Like, once you get to that third act, like, it is just so like, I know Del hasn't seen it, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't think it is much of a spoiler, but the stuck on the wall scene, like that scene to me is so scary. Or the old woman scene. Again, I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I respect
these are the things to look forward to, my man.
Yeah, like, but and that was all filmed practically. The old lady scene, was completely filmed practically, and it came out so well. And obviously, like Mika said, one of the best jump scares of all time. One of the most unexpected jump scares of all time, and it works so well. And the way that that moment jump cuts to a complete other moment with the Lord Jesus Christ,
but
like
it's
that.
Still a match cut. That's the nice thing about it. It's a perfect match cut too. I always look for that. That's the film school geek in me. I look for match cuts everywhere. So yeah, that's good.
It's just wow. It's one of those films that I've not seen Believe yet, and despite having low expectations, and it sucks, man, because like even
they're doing their best to keep at least the production of genre movies going. They're not all going to be classics, but you got to support and at least hold criticism until you see the end product. Just don't go in and say, oh, it's Jason Blum, so hate, like you're at the haters club.
Right. And it's just, like I said, I go into movies wanting to like them. So I give them every benefit of the doubt because I want to be entertained. And The Exorcist Believer entertained me. And again, I'm not going to get into it. Me and my wife were called racist because we said it was divisive. Well, okay.
Two different things.
Yeah. They're like, oh, what is divisive? Because it's centered around an African American family. I was like, you obviously don't know me. So if you did, you would know that you're talking out your ass. But I think that it's beautifully acted. The ending was super shocking to me. Like I said, I didn't watch. I mean, I knew that the critics had shit on it, which I don't care. The critics always shit on every horror movie anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't watch any of my friends' reviews or anything like that because I always like to go into these blind. I don't like to be influenced by what my friends are saying. And I'm so glad I did because I was genuinely shocked at the ending. I was like happy tears at the end of this movie. I think you know what scene I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But like that to me was just like, what a bow on top. That took me by surprise. Completely shocked me.
But the thing about this is it does the same thing like you're saying with Exorcist. You still get that slow burn, but now it's wrapped around, like you said, this crime drama. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, this is called The Exorcist in the third act. So it's kind of like you're building to it. You're building to it. You're still trying to figure out, like you mentioned, with the whole killer aspect to it. What's the connection here? And then when you get in a third act, and all of a sudden it's like twist and twist and twist.
Yeah,
it's good.
And anybody that knows me knows, Brad. Child's Play is my favorite horror franchise of all time. So to see Brad Dourif play the role he did in this movie was just, oh, wow. That showed that dude is an actor, not just a voiceover performer. Like this bro's got acting chops, man.
Yeah, and you saw it from there too, for sure.
Oh,
yeah. Sidebar question: how old is your son?
15.
Your oldest, 15. I was just looking at Dell's comment here. He said he showed his daughter, who's older, the original Exorcist a month ago. He still loved it. She thought it was too slow. I'll say this. Sorry to cut you off here, but
no, go ahead.
I think when we were kids and we saw it, we focused on the horrific aspects of it. So if you didn't see it from, let's say, we saw it too young once again, teenage years, pre-teen years, and all you remember was like the Reagan scenes, you grow up thinking that's the whole movie.
Right.
So when you see it now, you're like, oh, there was more to it, and they were in Iraq, and this and that and the third. And then when you get to the scenes that, the famous scenes and all that, then you remember, you're like, oh, okay, but it wasn't the whole movie. But
Right.
if that's all you hear about and it's hype, 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 then when you see it, you're like, where's the good stuff? Because once again,
for kids now, kids now that have watched like Sinister, Insidious, The Conjuring, and then you go back and watch The Exorcist. Sure, it's a slow burn that they're probably not going to enjoy. We didn't have access to those movies then. This was what we had, and this was the first thing we had seen. And this movie will always be special to me too, because, like I said, my mom and dad, they owned a little mom and pop video store in our town called Downtown Video. And The Exorcist was the only movie that my mom ever shut off. She was like, nope, we're not doing this. This is too much. I grew up in a very, I don't want to say super religious household, but Jesus Christ was a huge part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And my mom, when we got to the crucifix scene, she was like, nope. We're done.
Yeah.
We're not watching this.
And I think that was a big thing in the 70s for a lot of people. It was the shock value.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fact that it was horrific. It was the shock value, and the shock is the true horror. Like Jerry says here, it's hard to be scared of any of these movies. I don't even flinch on these jump scares. Yeah. And the kids coming up behind you, same way. They're like so desensitized by everything they see. It's hard for them to maybe appreciate.
Wait, you didn't jump at the Exorcist 3 jump scare? I can't say which one because I don't want to spoil it for Dell, but that really didn't make you jump?
When I first saw it, I did, for sure.
Oh, man. I almost hit my roof on that scene.
I hope he hasn't seen it yet either. Ooh,
what a great
good question. Good question, Jeff. Is it Blumhouse hate or DGG hate?
Oh, it's David Gordon Green hate. It's because of Halloween Ends. That's what it all stems from. And it sucks because, okay, this does sound really weird the way I explain this, but stick with me for a second.
Yeah.
Halloween Ends is the best movie in that trilogy, but Halloween Ends is also the worst movie in that trilogy. From a direction standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, I think Halloween Ends is the best movie of the David Gordon Green trilogy. As the third chapter of those movies, it's a dog shit ending to that trilogy.
Facts.
The way the movie was hyped up as the final battle after 40 years of Michael and Laurie, and then to go off and do what they did, like that, marketing ruined that movie.
Yeah.
But to me, like when it comes to like the cinematography, a lot of the acting, I think it's such a great story. And if it would have been its own standalone film, I think it could have been very successful. But we were all anticipating the ending of this trilogy.
Yeah.
You don't have A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi be all about, I don't know, R2-D2 and his backstory.
We need fighting.
Right. We need the ending to Luke and Vader. Like, that's what we needed here. We didn't need the very last 5 minutes to be the story of Laurie and Michael.
Yeah.
And as a movie, I love Halloween Ends. Like, I adore Halloween Ends as a movie. as the end of the David Gordon Green trilogy, I think it's a smack in the face to Halloween fans that were looking for closure to Laurie Strode and Michael Myers.
And that's how I felt the first time I watched it. And then I had a conversation with somebody and they said, what if everything in the third movie is from her perspective? You notice the way she just pops up all of a sudden in places, kind of like an entity instead of an actual character. Maybe you're just like hearing the perspective from her book, because she actually closes the book at the end.
At the very
and
end.
I'm like, wow, okay. I went back and I rewatched it and I was like, I think you have something there. A couple more comments before we continue on here. Yeah, still scary. What's up, Caveman? Thank you for popping in. Remind everybody to hit that like button. Yeah, R.I.P. to Freakin', man. He made a classic and he didn't even know it at the time. Think seeing Exodus for the first time in 2020. It doesn't hit as hard because it's been copy parodied. Yeah. And it really comes down to like what people know, but there's so much more to the movie, which makes it cinematic. Masterpiece for sure. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. Really wanted more of a conclusion from. Yeah, we all did. We all did. It should have been all about them. Yeah, and yeah, the standalone would have been a great way to continue it on, for sure. All right. I want you to talk about Poltergeist 3 because the last time I watched it, I had a teen at the end of my at the end of my age there. I also used to work in a video store, so I always say I forgot more movies than I watched. So, but I know it was a great sequel to the original, which I've watched within the last year. Still holds up, by the way. But tell us about the further adventures of Carol Ann in Poltergeist 3.
Again, Poltergeist 3 is my favorite of the bunch.
Really?
It is.
Huh.
And this really blows people away when I say this, because my order from least favorite to favorite is the remake, the 2015 Poltergeist, Poltergeist 2, Poltergeist 3. And that's nothing against Poltergeist. I think Poltergeist.
No. I just never heard that ranking before. Continue.
Right, and I think the original Poltergeist is a classic. I think that without Poltergeist, there's probably at least 25 genre films that don't exist, and I'm not even counting the Poltergeist sequels. Toby Hooper and Steven Spielberg really did something special with Poltergeist, but the fear is completely amplified in Poltergeist 2 with Reverend Kane. You know, Reverend Kane comes onto the scene, and Heather O'Rourke, she becomes a bigger player. Obviously, she was, 4 or 5 years old during the first Poltergeist, but in part 2, she becomes a bigger player. And then in part 3, she has the biggest chunk of screen time. Yeah. And Poltergeist 3 is a movie that I think it's unfortunate. Obviously, Heather O'Rourke, who plays Carol Ann, passed away while filming the movie. And so they had to slap an ending on the movie that's dog shit. And they didn't even want to finish the movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
So for those of you that do have Shudder, which you should have because it's the best streaming service, there's a documentary series on there called Cursed Films where they talk about...
I was just thinking about that.
And they have an episode about Poltergeist. And in it, they bring on the director from Poltergeist 3, and he talks about how Heather had passed away. And they were done. They're like, we're not going to finish the movie. We're completely done with it. And the studio was like, bullshit. We've already spent this money. You finished this movie. And nobody wanted to. Nobody wanted to be there for it. And so they just slapped an ending on it and called it a day. And he's like, if I could go back, I would have paid love and honor to Heather and made the best ending I could. But, hindsight's 2020. You're at a time where you just lost a 12-year-old girl that you had become family with while filming this movie. And you have these bigwig execs at a studio saying, we don't care, finish it. And it's just such an unfortunate thing. She died from a medical misdiagnosis. And she was she went on to set the very first day and went to the director and said, I want to be a director when I get older, so I'm going to be watching everything you do. That's special for a 12-year-old to say something like that. She was a very, very smart young lady. And I think this movie is the scariest of the bunch, honestly. It's funny because this coming Saturday on In Defense Of, Ashley interviews me on Poltergeist 3 and why I defend this movie. And there's this one part of the movie that always scared me so much as a kid, and they're on the elevator, and it's Bruce and Aunt Trish, and she's like, I can't wait to get up to the house, because you think it's all over. You know, you think the story's over. And she's like, I can't wait to get up there and send her back home to her mom. And Bruce is like, it wasn't her fault. And they look at each other. And then Reverend Kane comes out of the mirror, and he's like, yes, it is. And he touches the aunt and uncle, and the elevator starts going haywire.
Yeah.
Woo! That scared me as a kid. But then,
how old were you when you saw this?
Oh my gosh, I was probably six
Jeez.
or 7. And another reason this movie's so special to me is my kid sister looks just like Heather O'Rourke. She has the white blonde hair. She used to have the red footy pajamas. So like we would play Poltergeist at my house, and I'd be Reverend Kane, and I would chase her around the house. You know, like this and Creepshow 2 are the ones my kid sister and I watched. So we would play the raft. I would put a blanket on me and crawl across the floor and act like I was the blob from Creepshow 2, and I'd jump up and try to grab her off the couch and shit.
You guys were horror kids.
Oh, we were such horror kids. But like as an adult watching this, something that really, really affects me about Poltergeist 3, and I mean it hits me to my core. In almost every movie you watch, whether it's horror, comedy, drama, the step mom, the step aunt, the step grandma, the step dad, they're the evil one, you know.
Yeah. It's a Disneyfication of movies.
Right. In this movie, Uncle Bruce, who is technically Carol Ann's step uncle, is the one that has the best relationship with her. And he's the one that's like, I don't mind having all these beautiful women. Because the story of Poltergeist 3 is Heather O'Rourke's character, Carol Ann, has gone to live with her aunt and uncle in Chicago to try to get away from the events of what happened in California. And Reverend Kane follows her there. And to watch, like, you know, Uncle Bruce is the one that's like, you know, he's constantly defending Carol Ann. You know, he wants her there. He wants to protect her. There's this really sweet moment of him and her in the bedroom. He's like, you know how to make a little girl laugh? First you take her feet, and he starts tickling her feet, you know, like he's not your stereotypical evil step uncle. You know,
Right.
Even though he's the step uncle, you could see a familial bond between the two of them. And I felt like that was really, really special. And there's a super, super meta moment in the movie where Bruce is talking to Aunt Trish, and Aunt Trish, who we also know from RoboCop, and the bully in Carrie. She's the bully in Carrie. And Bruce is talking to Trish, to her, and I think Nancy Andrews, I want to say.
Nancy Allen, there
we go. And he's talking to her, and he's like, you know, she's just a little girl. Don't let that shrink convince you that she's Houdini or Carrie or something like that. You know, so him saying that to her, to Nancy Allen, like, hey, yeah, don't let him make you think she's Carrie while she was the bully from Carrie. Like, I thought that was just a brilliant little meta moment in the film upon our rewatch. And so there's a lot to grab onto, and everybody always talks about the ending. The ending is bad. It's really bad. But what other choice did they have? You know, like this little girl just died, you know, like that's real life. Like this is bigger than a movie. You know, this young lady just passed away. And I'll tell you what, the ending where she walks out and they're holding a little girl that's very obviously not Heather O'Rourke, very obviously not her. They don't even show her face. You know, she covers her face the whole time so you can't see it. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is after that happens, they show like a skyline view of Chicago, and then lightning strikes, and you hear Reverend Kane laughing. And it's like, you knew you weren't going to carry on this franchise after you lost Heather.
But if the dollars were there, they left it open.
But like, that to me is so insulting. Like, why would you do that? You should have closed the book on this.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about Poltergeist 2015, and one thing about that movie that I can say gained a lot of love and respect. Ashley and I just recently did a versus episode on Poltergeist versus the remake. And something that gained a lot of respect for me is when they went in to do the remake, they were like, listen, Heather O'Rourke is Carol Ann. We will never have another one. So we're going to typecast against Carol Ann for this movie. The little girl's name in the Poltergeist remake is not Carol Ann. It's Madison. And she's a young lady with dark hair, brown eyes. Everything opposite of Heather. Yeah. That to me is the most humanistic, beautiful thing.
Tasteful.
You know, it is super. Heather was Carol Ann. Period. We will never have another one. We're not going to insult her memory, you know, her legacy by trying to redo what she did. We're going to make it completely different to honor her memory, even with this new film. And that, to me, gained that movie points right off the bat for being human beings and realizing that that is way more important than a fictional movie about a haunted house. You know, like that was a beautiful, as a father, you know, like that to me was just such a beautiful moment to see them say, this isn't Carol Ann. Carol Ann's already been Carol Ann, and she will always be. You know, Heather will always be Carol Ann, and we will not interfere with that. We will rename our actress. We will cast her completely different out of her legacy respect. And that's beautiful. Beautiful thing.
Great choices. Great choices of movies. Tell Ashley I said the same thing. Great choices. Let's bang out these last 3 questions and go home.
Okay.
So, name a horror movie that everybody loves, you can't stand.
Trick or Treat. Hate it.
Trick or Treat. Sam?
Yep.
Back there somewhere? Okay.
Yep. Can't stand it.
Do you like anthology horror movies altogether?
Anthology horror is my favorite.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I want to like that movie. We watch it every Halloween, and I want to like it so bad. Like, Tales from the Hood is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Creepshow 2. I love anthology horror. But I can't get into Trick or Treat. I just can't. I want to so bad. Some of the ideas are great. The school bus driver, like all that is, it's horrific. But I can't get into it.
Wow. Okay. Keep watching. Keep watching. Number 4. Name a horror movie that needs more love. You know a lot of them. What aren't people talking about? What do people need to see?
The Dark and the Wicked.
Huh.
From 2020. I will say this. Much like a lot of other people you were just talking about, I felt like I was completely desensitized to horror. It's on Shudder right now. It might even be streaming on Amazon Prime. It's from Brian Bertino, the same guy that did The Strangers. Me and Ashley watched The Dark and the Wicked at like 1:00 in the afternoon, broad daylight, and I was freaked out. The movie freaked me out. Wow. Hardcore freaked me out.
We're going to talk about that probably in another week or so. We're going to talk more about that one. All right.
Oh man, that movie deserves so much more love. What a fantastic film.
All right. Let's see. Well, before we go, I just want to thank you personally again for coming back on. So with that in mind, you've been through the routine now. So number 5, who would you like to see me have a conversation with on this channel?
A couple people. One would be Frankie G. Like I said, Xavier from Saw 2. He's fantastic. Great guy. Really good friend. Nick from the Lost River Drive-In, another YouTuber. He's awesome. I think you and him would have a great time. Justin Ryan 1988. He's another awesome YouTuber that I think you would have an amazing time with here. Liz Zombie, I think she's fantastic. She owns a cafe, a horror-themed cafe, and she's just super smart and super hilarious. I love her to death. She's always making me laugh. Cody Leach, big YouTuber that I'm, really good friend of mine. Let me see, who else? Anybody, man. Like Kylie from Haunted Hippie. She's a amazing young lady. Very hard worker in the YouTube community. Sweet and Spooky, Celise, another one of my very good friends.
Oh my gosh, you're giving me content here, baby.
Oh man, like that's what I love. Like I just feel like I love one of the biggest successes for me. You know, the money we make on YouTube, that's cool. You know, that's dope. But the thing for me is like when I have somebody hit me up like, yo, I met this person because of your My First Horror Movie series and we linked up, we're doing a video together. That to me is like, I've done my job. You know what I mean? Like I've showed you somebody, I've introduced you to somebody. Like that to me is awesome. And like I said, the friends we've made, like I got to take my wife and my 2 daughters out to meet Kira and Mika. You know, and we got to walk around Salem together and have coffee and just have like an amazing day of friendship and love. And my daughters just like clung to them and fell in love with them. And like, it was like those moments to me is worth more than all the money in the world, you know, like, and when I do that, when I take my daughters out and they're like, oh, you met these people because of your YouTube channel. Like we're like superheroes to our daughters again, you know, like they're like, wow, my parents are cool. Like,
Yeah.
sure, for the next 10 minutes at least.
Yeah,
You know?
until you want something, I say no, and then life returns.
Right.
Jeff, we're gonna talk about this one next week. I'm glad you brought this one up because yeah, that is a sweet story. But that's how I feel about these conversations, man. Every time I have one, it's like connecting to someone else or
Right.
bringing back a connection that I really enjoy, or having a friend stop by to just chat about our favorite stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in again, man. Have a good day. I
And
was
we're
gonna
gonna
say
have
day.
KB is gonna come on and talk about his first horror movie soon, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
It's gonna happen.
it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be different than probably most people. This is where you could find this guy here and his lovely wife. They have probably some of the most awesome horror content out there. Check them out. Check out their channel on YouTube. Check out their Instagram. Details will be below in a few moments after this stream is done. But once again, I would like to thank you once again.
It
And
was an honor to be asked to come on, man.
man, this is a long time coming, so I'm glad we can make it happen.
Me too, man.
Everyone who hung around, thank you for doing so. And as we always say, watch a movie. Have a good one.